What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? This is Truth a Lot Thursdays on a Friday afternoon, and this is a Sosa. I usually do Truth a Lot Thursdays every once in a while just to answer the questions that I get in my inbox. If you have any beefs, doubts, unbeliefs, issues with the Bible, God, Christianity, Jesus, anything of that nature, feel free to inbox me anytime. I don't know everything, but I will research and try to find out what I can find out, and I'll try to answer your question. This question is a follow-up from the previous two questions, and basically talking about the law of God. Now, I did a whole series at our congregation on the law of God, rightly dividing the law of God, because a lot of people confuse all the laws and put them together. They don't realize the Bible uses context clues to divide certain types of laws from other laws. Okay, so not all laws are created equal, and so I highly recommend you listen to that. If this is kind of difficult for you to understand, I would go to NewCityAssembly, and there's a series called "The Law That Will Never Pass Away." Take a look at that series. But this is another follow-up question. It says, I understand man's traditions like the holidays celebrated and superstitions and stuff, but what about Passover? Is that man's tradition, or is that a commandment? Is that a ceremonial commandment, or does it bear enough significance to be observed today? Are there any traditions that are beneficial for the sakes of children? I didn't mean solely for children's sakes, but I know some of the traditions I grew up with do not enhance my understanding of the thing or why the thing is significant. An example is Easter. Getting the basket, dressing up and going to church, etc. I also did not grow up in the knowledge of Christ, only a vague idea that there was a guy who didn't like cussing. I'm sure a lot of people can identify with that. So the question is basically saying, are the Hebrew holidays, are they a tradition of man, or are they a commandment? So the answer is both. The Hebrew holidays were a commandment of God for a certain people for a certain time period. Passover, that would be considered one of the Hebrew ceremonial laws that they had to observe, that we had to observe before Christ was nailed to the cross and the veil was ripped in two. So that's a biblical holiday, but it's not necessarily something we are judged for not doing. Acts 15 says the only thing that Gentile Christians should be instructed about keeping from the Mosaic law is idolatry, fornication, and eating strangled and bloody food. So things that harm us spiritually, things that harm us mentally, and things that harm us physically. Okay? Now, if you celebrate a Hebrew holiday, is there a benefit to it? Definitely yes. I mean, it's a biblical holiday. The biblical holidays are meant to reflect Christ and to foretell the coming of Christ, the salvation of Christ. So if you celebrate a biblical holiday and you use that to remind you of who Jesus is and what he did and the significance of the Lamb who took away the sins of the world, then that's a great thing to do. I mean, that's the purpose of it. It's better, it's definitely more effective than worshiping Ishtar or some kind of pagan god. However, you know, like I said in Acts 15, we're not really supposed to judge people according to holidays, because those are ceremonial law that was nailed to the cross. That's part of the ceremonial law. It's no longer a requirement for people of Israel only, or the Gentiles, actually, as a matter of fact. So yeah, so it's okay to do, but it's not necessarily a requirement. Definitely not for salvation. Is it helpful? Yes, but it's not something that God basically demands today.